When my mom told me she couldn't come to my wedding because of health reasons, I believed her, but a week later I saw pictures of her at my sister's vacation, laughing and celebrating without me, and that moment completely shattered whatever small amount of respect I still had for her as my mother. I stared at that message for 20 minutes. My fiancée Sarah was already asleep next to me, her wedding planning binder still open on her nightstand. We'd been planning this day for 2 years, every detail mapped out for, except now the most important one was backing out. Mom had been distant since Sarah and I got engaged. Not hostile, just cold. She'd make excuses to skip our engagement party planning calls. She forgot to RSVP until I called her directly. When we asked for her guest list, she said she didn't have many people to invite anyway. I should have seen the signs, but don't expect own mother to lie about being sick. The morning after her text I called her. She sounded tired, defeated. The doctors ran more tests yesterday, she said, her voice shaky. My heart isn't what it used to be. The stress of travel, being around crowds, they said it could trigger an episode. Mom, what kind of episode? What exactly is wrong? I pressed. It's complicated, sweetie. Know how these medical things are. I just can't risk it. I'm so sorry. I felt like garbage for doubting her. Here was my mother clearly suffering and I was being selfish about my wedding day. Don't worry about it, Mom, health comes first. We'll FaceTime during the ceremony so can still be there. That would be wonderful, she said, and for a moment she sounded genuinely happy. Sarah took it harder than I did. Mom has never liked me, she said while addressing wedding invitations that night. This is just her excuse to not show up. That's not fair, I defended. Mom's been dealing with health issues. No, she had that scare last year. What scare? Never told me about any scare. I realized I couldn't actually remember any specific health scare. Just vague mentions of not feeling well and getting older. But that's normal for parents, right? They don't want to worry their kids with every ache and pain. The wedding day was perfect. Almost. Sarah looked absolutely stunning. The venue was exactly what we'd dreamed of. Our friends and family filled every seat except one in the front row where Mom should have been sitting. We'd even put a small photo of her on the chair with a ribbon that said, "With us in spirit." During the ceremony, I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for her FaceTime call. It never came. Maybe the connection is bad, Sarah whispered during our first dance. Or maybe she's having a rough day. I called Mom twice that night. Both calls went straight to voicemail. The next morning, hungover and still in my tuxedo pants, I tried again. This time she answered. "Oh honey, I'm so sorry I missed the call yesterday. I was at the hospital for most of the day. How did everything go?" "It was beautiful, Mom. Even just on video." I know, I feel terrible. Send me all the pictures, okay? I want to see everything." Something in her voice was off. She sounded relaxed. Not like someone who'd spent the day in the hospital, but I was exhausted and emotional and I let it slide. We went on our honeymoon to Greece. For a week I pushed away the weird feeling about Mom's absence. Sarah and I were happy. We were married. We were starting our together. That's what mattered. Then we got back. I was scrolling through Instagram, still jet lagged and mindlessly catching on everything I'd missed when I saw it. A post from my sister Emma's account. A carousel of photos from what looked like an amazing beach vacation. Emma grinning with a cocktail. Emma and her boyfriend on a catamaran. Emma at a fancy restaurant. And in the third photo there was Mom. She was wearing a bright sundress I'd never seen before, her hair done in a way that looked professional, like she'd had it styled. She was holding a champagne glass and laughing. Actually laughing. The timestamp showed it was from 5 days ago. 2 days after my wedding. My hand started shaking. I clicked through to Emma's stories, the ones I'd missed while I was away. More photos. Mom at the airport with Emma, both of them wearing matching vacation outfits. Mom on the beach, looking healthier and happier than I'd seen her in years. Mom at dinner toasting with the whole group Emma had brought along. The caption on one story made my stomach drop. "So grateful Mom could join us last minute. Best vacation crew ever, last minute." I screenshot everything before the stories disappeared. Then I sat in my kitchen, still in my honeymoon clothes and tried to process what I was seeing. My mother, who was too sick to attend my wedding, had flown across the country to party with my sister on a beach vacation. While I was on my honeymoon, heartbroken that she'd missed the most important day of she was living it in Miami. Sarah found me there 2 hours later still staring at my phone. "What's wrong?" she asked, but she could see the photos on my screen. Her face changed as she understood. "Oh my God, is that Mom?" I couldn't speak. I just handed her my phone and watched her scroll through the evidence of my mother's betrayal. "She lied to," Sarah said quietly. She chose Emma over. The worst part wasn't even the lie. It was realizing that this had been planned. Emma's last-minute invitation, Mom's sudden health crisis, the timing of it all. They'd coordinated this. My sister had asked Mom to choose between my wedding and her vacation, and Mom had picked the vacation. I called Emma first. She didn't answer. Then I tried Mom. "Hi honey, how was the honeymoon?" Her voice was cheerful, casual, like she hadn't just destroyed any trust I'd ever had in her. I saw the photos, Mom. The silence stretched for so long I thought the call had dropped. "What photos?" "The ones from Miami, with Emma. The ones where looked perfectly healthy and happy while I thought we're in the hospital." Another long pause. "I can explain." But I hung. Because what explanation could possibly make this okay? What words could fix the fact that my own mother had chosen my sister's beach vacation over my wedding day? Sarah held me while I cried that night. Not sad tears but angry ones. Betrayed ones. The kind that come from realizing someone loved unconditionally has been playing favorites whole and were never the favorite. The next morning I had 17 missed calls from Mom and 12 from Emma. I didn't return any of them. Because some betrayals don't deserve explanations, they just deserve consequences. Emma showed at our apartment 3 days later. I watched her through the peephole, pacing back and forth in the hallway, working the courage to knock. When she finally did, I almost didn't answer. "Please," she called through the door. "Let me explain." Sarah was at work. I was alone with my anger and 3 days of unanswered questions. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Emma looked awful. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from her Instagram photos but now wrinkled and stained. The guilt was eating her alive and part of me was glad. I never meant for this to happen. She started before I could even let her in. Which part? The lying or the getting caught? She flinched. Can I come in, please? I stepped aside but didn't offer her a seat. She stood in my living room, the same living room where Mom had helped us pick out furniture 2 years ago, back when I thought she actually cared about my. It wasn't supposed to be during wedding, Emma said. The trip was planned for the next week, but then Marcus got called away for work and we had to move everything. I mentioned it to Mom and she said she couldn't come because of wedding. So convinced her to skip my wedding instead. No, that's not. I didn't convince her of anything. I just said I was disappointed because I really wanted her there. It was supposed to be this big group trip with Marcus's family and I was nervous about meeting them alone. The excuses kept coming, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was remembering every time Emma had gotten Mom's attention when we were kids. Every time Mom had dropped plans with me to deal with one of Emma's crises. Every time I'd been told to be understanding, because Emma needed more support. She chose, I said, her off mid-sentence. When it came down to it, she chose over me, again. It's not like that. Then what's it like, Emma? Because from where I'm standing it looks like Mom faked being sick to avoid my wedding so she could party with on a beach. How exactly am I supposed to interpret that? Emma started crying. Real tears, not the manipulative kind she used to pull as a kid. I didn't know she was going to lie to. I thought she'd just tell the truth, that she'd made other plans. When I found out she told she was sick, I felt horrible. But not horrible enough to tell me the truth. I wanted to. I almost called a dozen times during the trip. But Mom begged me not to. She said it would just more and the damage was already done. I laughed but it came out bitter and hollow. The damage was already done. That's rich. Know what the damage was, Emma? It was me standing at the altar, looking at that empty chair wondering if my mother was dying alone in a hospital somewhere. It was Sarah having to comfort me on our wedding night because I was worried sick about Mom. It was me feeling guilty for being happy on my own wedding day. She was sobbing now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her like I always had before. Just cold hard clarity. Where is she now? I asked. Home. She's been a wreck since hung on her. She knows she messed. A wreck. She looked pretty happy in those photos. That was before she realized knew. She thought, we both thought never find out. And there it was. The real truth. They'd planned to keep the secret forever. Mom was going to let me believe she was sick and fragile, while she lived her real with Emma. I was going to spend the rest of my marriage making accommodations for my mother's health problems, while she jetted off on vacations with my sister. Get out, I said. Please, just listen. Get out of my house, Emma. She left, but not before turning back at the door. She loves no. This doesn't change that. I closed the door without responding because what was the point? Love isn't a feeling claimed to have. It's a choice make over and over. And when it mattered most, Mom had chosen Emma. The phone call started that night. Mom called every hour until I blocked her number. Then she started calling from different numbers. The landline at work, Emma's phone numbers I didn't recognize. I blocked them all. Sarah found me in our bedroom, sitting on the floor with my phone in my hands, declining call after call. Maybe should talk to her, she said gently. Get some closure. What's she going to say that could possibly matter? Sorry I lied about being sick to skip wedding. Sorry I chose sister over. Sorry I let worry about me dying while I was getting on a beach. Sarah sat down next to me. I don't know. But this is eaten alive. She was right. I hadn't slept in 3 days. I couldn't eat. I kept replaying every conversation with Mom over the past few months, looking for clues I'd missed. The way she changed the subject when I talked about wedding plans. The vague responses when I asked about her health. The complete absence of enthusiasm for anything related to my marriage. I need to know why, I finally said. The next morning I drove to Mom's house. I didn't call first. I wanted to catch her off guard, see her real reaction before she had time to prepare another lie. She answered the door in her pajamas at 2 p.m., looking like she hadn't left the house since she got back from Miami. Her face crumpled when she saw me. Oh honey, don't, I said, pushing past her into the house. Don't own me, not anymore. She followed me into the living room, where I could see evidence of her guilt spiral. Empty bottles on the coffee table, tissues everywhere, photos of me and Sarah from our engagement scattered across the couch like she'd been torturing herself with them. I know angry, she started. Angry. I turned to face her. Mom, I'm not angry. I'm destroyed. Do understand what did to me? Her face was blotchy from crying but I couldn't bring to care. I made a terrible mistake. No, a mistake is forgetting to call. A mistake is double booking. What did was calculated. Lied to me for weeks. Let me plan around absence. Let me worry about. Made Sarah feel like she wasn't good enough for our family. Turned the happiest day of my into something I'll never be able to think about without remembering that my own mother chose not to be there. She was crying again, but I kept going. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that we're never gonna tell me, we're gonna let me believe we're sick forever. How long, Mom? How long we're planning to keep this lie? I don't know, she whispered. I didn't think it through. I panicked. Why? That's all I want to know. Why was Emma's vacation more important than my wedding? The silence stretched between us. I could see her struggling with something, like she was deciding whether to tell me another lie or finally be honest. Because she needed me, she finally said. And I didn't. Are so independent. Always have been. And Sarah have figured out. Don't need me the way Emma does. I stared at her, trying to process what she just said. So because I'm not a mess I don't matter. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what meant. Because I don't create drama. Because I don't call crying every week. Because I built a stable relationship and a good, decided I didn't need my mother at my wedding. She didn't deny it. Emma will always be priority, I said, and it wasn't a question anymore. It was just a fact I was finally accepting. No matter what I do, no matter how important needs something, she comes first. It's not that simple. It is that simple, proved it. On the most important day of my, proved it. I walked toward the door, but she grabbed my arm. Please don't leave like this. We can work through this. We're family. I looked down at her hand on my arm, then back at her face. Family doesn't lie to each other about being sick. Family doesn't abandon each other for beach vacations. Family shows. I pulled free from her grip. Showed me exactly what kind of family we are, and I'm done pretending it's anything different. I left her crying in her doorway, but I didn't look back. Because some betrayals don't get forgiven just because someone is sorry they got caught. The wedding anniversary came 11 months later. Sarah and I were having dinner at the same restaurant where we'd had our rehearsal dinner, trying to reclaim some joy from that weekend. I was almost succeeding until Sarah brought the elephant in the room. Have thought about what'll do when she reaches out next week. She reaches out every week. I said into my steak. I just don't respond. But it's our anniversary. She'll probably what? Remember that she missed our wedding. Send flowers to apologize for lying about being sick while she partied with Emma. Sarah put down her fork. I know her, but it's been almost a year. Don't. I could feel the familiar anger rising. Don't tell me I should forgive her. Don't tell me I should let this go. And don't tell me she's learned her lesson. How do know she hasn't if won't talk to her? Because I knew Mom. I'd spent 32 years learning exactly who she was. And people like her don't learn lessons. They just get better at hiding their selfishness. 3 days later, the flowers arrived with a card that said, thinking of both on anniversary. I love more than no. Mom eyed them in the trash without reading the card twice. But my coworker Jake saw them. Wow, Mom sent those. That's sweet. My mom's dead to me, I said, louder than I meant to. Jake's face fell. Oh man, I'm sorry. I didn't know she passed. She didn't pass. She just stopped being my mother. The whole office went quiet. I realized I'd said too much, revealed too much of my broken family situation to people who barely knew me. I spent the rest of the day feeling awkward condolences and having to explain that no, my mother wasn't actually dead, we just didn't speak anymore. That night Sarah confronted me. Can't keep doing this. With this anger. I'm protecting. There's a difference. Because from where I'm sitting it looks like letting her betrayal control every aspect of. Can't enjoy our anniversary dinner without bringing her. Snapping at coworkers. Refused to visit hometown because might run into her. She wasn't wrong. I had been avoiding our hometown. When my college roommate got married there last spring, I made an excuse not to go. When Sarah's friend invited us to her lake house an hour from Mom's place, I convinced Sarah we should go somewhere else instead. She made her choice, I said. Now I'm making mine. Oh, what about Emma? That stopped me cold. Emma, my sister who used to call me her best friend. Who used to ask my advice about everything. Who I hadn't spoken to since that day in my living room. What about her? She's been trying to rebuild things too. She sends me messages sometimes asking how we're doing. This was news to me. Since when do talk to Emma? I don't talk to her. But she reaches out. She's worried about. She says won't respond to her either. Of course she was worried. Emma had never had to face real consequences for anything in her. Mom had always cleaned her messes, smoothed things over, made sure everyone forgave Emma's latest crisis. This was probably the first time someone had her off completely and she couldn't handle it. Good, I said. She should be worried. But the truth was I missed Emma. Not the Emma who'd helped Mom lie to me, but the Emma who used to be my little sister. The one who called me when she had car trouble. The one who asked me to walk her down the aisle at her own wedding someday. 2 weeks later, I found out that someday had come and gone without me. I discovered it the way I discovered everything else about my family over the past year accidentally, through social media. A mutual friend posted a photo from what was clearly a wedding reception. In the background, barely visible, I could see Emma in a white dress dancing with some guy I didn't recognize. She'd gotten married. My sister had gotten married and I didn't even know she'd been engaged. I stared at that photo for an hour, zooming in on Emma's face. She looked happy, radiant, surrounded by family and friends, celebrating the biggest day of her family. Mom was there, of course. I could see her another photo, giving a toast, looking proud and emotional. The way she should have looked at my wedding. The worst part wasn't that I'd missed it. The worst part was realizing that they'd all moved on without me. Emma had found someone, planned a wedding, walked down an aisle, and started anew, and none of them had even considered whether I should be there. I'd become a ghost in my own family. The missing person nobody mentioned anymore. Sarah found me in our home office at midnight, still scrolling through photos from Emma's wedding. When did this happen? She asked, looking over my shoulder. Last weekend apparently. She didn't tell she was engaged. I wouldn't have answered if she tried. Sarah sat down next to me. Do regret it. Not being there. I wanted to say no. I wanted to be strong and firm in my decision to them out. But looking at those photos, seeing Emma's happiness, remembering all the times I'd imagined walking her down the aisle someday, I felt something I hadn't expected. Loss, not anger, not betrayal. Just pure hollow loss. I don't know, I admitted. It's not too late, no, to try to fix things. But it was too late. That was the thing Sarah didn't understand. Some doors once closed can't be reopened. Some words once spoken can't be taken back. Some trust once broken can't be rebuilt. I'd spent the last year telling that I was the victim in this story. That Mom and Emma had wronged me and I was justified in them off. And I was justified. But being right doesn't make less alone. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I unblocked Mom's number. The text came flooding in immediately. Months of messages I'd never seen, birthday wishes, holiday greetings, random photos she'd wanted to share. And underneath it all the same refrain over and over, I'm sorry, I love, please call me. The most recent message was from 3 days ago. Emma's married now. I know probably don't care, but she asked about during her speech. She said she wished her big brother could have been there. I told her maybe someday he'll forgive us. I hope someday is soon. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, congratulations to Emma. I hope she's happy. It took Mom less than 30 seconds to respond, we talk, please. I started to type no. Then I deleted it. I started to type, I'm not ready. Deleted that too. Finally I just wrote, I don't know how. Who could start small, she replied. Just coffee. Just talking. 3 months later I sat across from Mom in a coffee shop downtown. Both of us uncomfortable and uncertain. She looked older, more fragile than I remembered. The guilt had aged her. Thank for coming, she said. I'm not here to forgive. I said immediately. I need to understand that. I'm here because I'm tired of being angry all the time. She nodded. I understand. Because for the past year everyone's been telling me I should get over it, move on, forgive and forget. But nobody seems to understand that didn't just miss my wedding. Broke something in me that I don't think can be fixed. Her eyes filled with tears but she didn't speak. I used to think were the most important person in my. I continued. I used to worry about losing. I used to plan my future around making sure we're taken care of when got older, and in one moment with one lie showed me that none of that mattered to Pine. It did matter. No, it didn't. Because if it had mattered, would have chosen differently. Would have told Emma couldn't make her trip. Would have been honest with me instead of lying about being sick. Would have shown for me the way I always showed for. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally she spoke. I can't undo what I did. I can't give back wedding day, but I want to try to earn back some small piece of trust. Why? The question came out harsher than I intended. Why now? Because Emma's married and doesn't need to choose her anymore. Mom's face crumpled. Because I realized I lost a son, and Emma getting married just reminded me that someday I'm going to and won't be there. And I'll deserve that, but I don't want to deserve that. It was the most honest thing she'd said to me in years. I don't know if I can do this, I said. I don't know if I can let back and just to have choose her again the next time it matters. I understand. But I want to try. If you'll let me. I looked at this woman who had given me, raised me, loved me in her imperfect way, and then shattered my trust completely. I thought about Sarah's words about with anger. I thought about Emma's wedding and all the moments I'd already missed by holding on to this. One coffee a month, I said finally. That's all I can promise right now. She nodded eagerly. That's more than I deserve. As I drove home, I realized something that scared me more than staying angry. Forgiveness isn't a moment. It's a choice make every day. And I wasn't sure I was strong enough to keep making it. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some relationships don't get to go back to what they were. Maybe some trust, once broken, stays broken forever. Maybe the best can do is learn to live with the pieces.